The United States is starting a military operation in Venezuela. United States Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth announced the start of Operation Southern Spear, which he said will be aimed at narco-terrorists and will protect the United States from drugs that are killing people. This coincided with the actual entry of the aircraft carrier United States ship Gerald Ford into the Caribbean Sea, which is now heading toward the shores of Venezuela. It is not entirely clear yet whether Hegseth has given a new name to the current United States operations near and beyond Venezuela, or if this is the starting signal for a new, expanded ground mission. But in Venezuela, alarm bells are ringing. They've announced a mass mobilization, and President Nicolas Maduro has already made a public appeal to Donald Trump and called for peace. He also urged Americans to unite with Venezuelans so as not to repeat Iraq and Afghanistan. Russia's behavior in this situation is quite telling. They did not dare to criticize the United States for its actions around Venezuela. The Kremlin only stated that they hope everything will comply with international law. My name is Pechiy. Let's discuss this topic, but first please subscribe, like this episode and leave a detailed comment below. Also subscribe to my Telegram channel Pechiy News. The link to it is in the description of this video. There, we post breaking news as soon as it comes in. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so financially with any donation or a paid sponsorship subscription using the links and details provided. In the description of this video, it says support the channel Pechiy. Choose any format that is convenient for you. I will be grateful for any support you provide. So, the United States Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, announced a new operation called Southern Spear to suppress narco-terrorists in the Western Hemisphere. Hegseth stated that the mission is led by the Joint Task Force Southern Spear and the United States Southern Command, with the goal, quote, to protect the homeland, remove narco-terrorists from our hemisphere, and keep our homeland safe from drugs that are killing our people. Well then, Pete Hegseth finally made it clear, quote, the Western Hemisphere is America's territory and we will defend it. Thus emphasizing that the United States is declaring its hegemony in this region in the Western Hemisphere. Just like it was in the early 19th century when the United States announced the Monroe Doctrine, which directly told Europeans that Latin America is actually America's domain and Europeans shouldn't interfere there. The statement about a military operation near Venezuela came after Pete Hegseth, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff then Kane. Senior military leaders reportedly held a late-night briefing at the White House on Wednesday for President Donald Trump regarding military options in the region, including a possible ground invasion of Venezuela. This happened shortly after it became known that on Monday, the United States military carried out its 20th deadly strike on a vessel allegedly transporting drugs. As a result of the strike in the Caribbean Sea, 4 people were killed. In total, since the beginning of September, when the anti-drug campaign started, the United States military has killed at least 80 people. Strikes were carried out both in the Caribbean basin and in the eastern part of the Pacific Ocean. The Trump administration says this aims to limit illegal drug flow into the United States. But here's the thing. Back at the end of January, the American military announced that the United States Navy's 4th Fleet would launch a new operation called Southern Spear. During this operation, a diverse combination of robotic and autonomous systems will be used to support the detection and monitoring of illegal trafficking, as well as to gain lessons for other theaters of military operations. That was a quote. In January, the military announced that the operation would take place in the Southern Command of the United States Armed Forces, which covers Bulgaria, countries of South and Central America, as well as the Caribbean. Therefore, it is still unclear here how exactly Pete Hegseth's statement relates to the news about Southern Spear that was published back in January. Is it the same thing, or are these different operations? Did Pete Hegseth just highlight an operation that was already planned back in January, or is this something completely different? In early October, Pete Hegseth announced that the Pentagon had formed a new joint task force to combat drugs, aiming to crush drug cartels in the Caribbean Sea, operating in the area of the Southern Command. And then the commander of the Southern Command, Admiral Elvin Halsey, stated, quote, by forming a joint task force around the headquarters of TUMEF We will expand our ability to detect, disrupt, and eliminate illegal trafficking networks more quickly and at greater depth, together with our colleagues from the United States and partner countries. At the same time, the Trump administration increased the large-scale military presence in the Southern Command area by sending warships, F-35 fighters, reconnaissance aircraft, bombers, and other military assets there. Increasing pressure on Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, whom the Trump administration described as an illegitimate leader and even the head of a drug cartel. This week, the United States increased its firepower in the region. On Tuesday, the aircraft carrier Gerald Ford, the largest in the world, arrived at the Southern Command with its strike group. The carrier, which has more than 4,000 sailors on board, is equipped with F-8 fighter jets. And right after the carrier entered the region, Hegseth held a briefing for Donald Trump and announced the start of a military operation. But experts assure that in the next few days things will remain quiet for now. Why? Because, as observers have noted, the aircraft carrier is now heading closer to the shores of Venezuela to take a better position for possible strikes. At the same time, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, who previously announced a mass mobilization in the country, publicly stated today that the people of the United States should unite with Venezuela for the sake of peace throughout the American continent. Maduro urged the United States not to get involved in another prolonged conflict, addressing his people in Spanish at one of the rallies in Caracas. Quote, "We need to unite for peace in America. Enough of endless wars, enough of unjust wars, enough of Libya, enough of Afghanistan." When asked if he had a message for United States President Donald Trump, Maduro repeated several times in English, "Yes, peace, yes, peace, yes, peace." Well, in short, he repeated peace, peace, peace several times, kind of hinting that there's no need to fight. And Nicolas Maduro is now left one-on-one with the United States of America, because even the Russians have simply abandoned their partner. The Kremlin responded cautiously to Washington after Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth announced a military operation against Venezuela, and the Kremlin's press secretary, Dmitry Peskov, said today, and I quote, "We hope that no actions will be taken that could lead to destabilization in the Caribbean and around Venezuela, and that everything will be in accordance with international law." And you know, friends, I'll remind you here that Russia and Venezuela signed a strategic partnership and cooperation agreement literally on May 7th of this year.